What's going on, growers? It's James Prigioni coming to you live from Jersey. In my opinion, what makes a great gardener isn't someone who just works very hard. Rather, they set up a system that works hard for them. So today, I want to show you my food forests that are designed not only to create food, but also support themselves. Let's go! I want to start off by showing you the 7-year-old food forest. Look at all that growth. Look how lush that is, compared to something like a lawn right next to it. The contrast is just amazing in my opinion. And a system like this that's 7 years in truly is starting to take care of itself. And there's a number of things that it is I'll talk about. It's sustainable, it's self-replicating. I'll get into that a little more as the video progresses. But as you can see, it's lush, it's productive, and this is really something that's going to support you. In my opinion, it's good to design something that it's going to be easier every year. It's going to get more fertile. And just because I said you don't necessarily have to work very hard, it doesn't mean it doesn't take work. Everything takes work. I'm not saying you're ever going to reap without sowing. What I'm saying is the work evolves. It becomes easier over time. And that's something that you want to look at because you're only going to get older. You're only going to have less energy. And you want to have something that's going to work for you. That's my opinion. Let me take you inside though and give you a feel of what it's like to have a system like this, to be a part of it and to grow with it. Think about that though. Creating something that's going to be easier every year. Focusing on perennials, because you're not going to have to plant those next year. They're in the ground already. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with annuals. I'm just saying we've got to have that perennial mindset. That's what's going to guide us along further and make it so we can get harvests that we're not really doing a lot of work for. Like these pears behind me. Since I planted that tree a number of years ago, I put mulch down. You know, I've watched it, I've guided it, done a little pruning, but besides that, I haven't slaved over it, and I'm still getting good production. So as I come strolling into the food forest, I want to ask you, do you want to set up a garden that's going to be harder every year, that'll be the same amount of work every year, or something that's going to be easier? I think we all know the answer to that. We want to set something up that's going to be sustainable, that's going to take care of itself, it's going to be self-replicating. What do I mean by self-replicating? I mean that it's going to be continually bringing on more generations on its own without me doing anything. Like all these cosmos planted here. I didn't plant these cosmos. I planted them the first years, but now every year there's more cosmos coming up. I've got peach trees in the middle of the food forest where I've got younger peach trees that came up from seed underneath. So that's important when we have a system that's always actually producing more of itself. And we've got some nice looking persimmons here, good looking tree. Some sections you can see, I've got a little bit of weeding to do. That's all right, I'll come through, I'll do some weeding. I just like to make sure I get those weeds out before they flower. That's important. You want to get all that kind of stuff out before it flowers or starts spreading. And some people have problems with weeds growing in wood chips. I try to tell them, you got to think about it. If the weeds are coming through, they're not thick enough. So if you do have a weed coming through, you got to get down there and you got to pull it out and remove the green growth. If weeds don't have any green growth, there's no way they can provide, there's no way they can photosynthesize and provide nutrients to the roots. So just get out here and pull your weeds if they're coming through wood chips very persistently, especially in a new section. Then after you get that section in like I have here, the weeds just come up rarely because they can't actually fall and root into the soil because they can't germinate. But these ones, if you have one that came up on its own like this, very easy to pull. Look at how easy it is because my soil is so soft. I've got great soil structure. And that's important. Good soil structure, good pore spacing. Hold water, and we've got another strawberry that wants to root, sending out runners. So we'll bury that guy in because we love growing food underneath our fruit trees. Bill Mollison talks about something called through fall, which is basically a tree's bathwater. So these trees here, when the rain comes, it hits the tree and drops down underneath. This is not water anymore. It's not rainwater after it's come off the tree. The tree has dust particles and all different kind of material on it. That goes down and that kind of feeds the soil. So it's pretty impressive. Trees are incredible. Looking up at the Bing, it just blows my mind how big the thing's got and how giant of a water pump this is. All the water pumps I have in here. It's almost like this whole section, I can bet that the humidity is higher in this area than anywhere else. And the oxygen level is probably higher too. I should come out here regularly and just take big, deep breaths just to get a feel for it. You know who's incredible too? This little guy. Tuck, he's the best. Although when he's out here, a lot running around, he probably gets thirsty. I'm gonna try to get him some water and see if he wants a little drink. One thing every garden or gardener really needs is that dedication and that loyalty. Someone who always has their back. And you guys know who's got my back at all times. Tuck. This guy watches over the garden. Like I said before, he's head of security, and we got a little water for him because he gets thirsty out here. He eats the cucumbers, but sometimes he needs to drink too. Tucky, thirsty boy? Here, Tuck. We always try to make sure we're taking care of the little guy. If it wasn't for him, I know we wouldn't have the success that we do in here. One thing about him though, is when he's out here, he's trying to get a drink of water a lot of times, and he'll basically drink any water, the dirty water. So we're trying to keep him away from that. That's why we got this little thing, make sure he's drinking. And anything he doesn't drink, we'll just go right to the plants. As you can see these right here, like I was showing before, this is a section underneath trees. We're getting peppers under trees, strawberries under trees. I've got a young apple tree here, and I'm not just wasting all that space around it while it's young, while it's not productive yet. We're growing tomatoes and borage, because as we know, borage is just such a great companion and one of the best for tomatoes as a companion. It's said to make them taste even better. We've had a good amount of splitting for some of the tomatoes, as I know a lot of you have with the hot, wet weather. But we're still doing well for some of them. That's where variety is big. For instance here, this is all soldaki. This is the tomato, if you watch the channel, you've heard about more than any other. There's a reason I talk about it a lot, and you can see why. It's productive. It's got good disease resistance. It doesn't split as some of the other ones. It's a little later than some of the tomatoes, but going late into the season fall, I know this is one that's gonna, support our big tomato sandwiches, because you gotta love them. A little mayo, a little tomato, a little salt and pepper, there's almost nothing better, especially when you got a Jersey tomato. But you can see this section here. We're growing underneath a mulberry tree and some other trees here, but we're still getting good production. Look how beautiful this basil is. I love it. Look at the purple flowers coming on the inside. When we have basil plants like this, we don't like to just let them flower. You can see how bushy it's getting. We like to bush them out. The way to do that is to come and just pull the flowers off the tops. What that will do is encourage the other tops to grow. So as you saw right there, I'll show you another one here. I'm gonna pull this one, we'll call it a top here, that's flowering. As a result of that, we now have two on the sides that are gonna grow. So we're doubling the number of tops, getting more growth out of it, and getting better production, which is important. And I love doing that, because you gotta go big basil plants. Here we've got a nice Scarlet Kale. This is important because we're gonna be adding more kales as the year progresses. You can see in sections here, we've got like a kale planted next to a tomato, or we've got a cauliflower planted next to tomatoes. You can see we're getting double the yield in one section. So as the cauliflower or some of that stuff finished, we allowed the tomatoes to come through. Growing multiple things in one area is how you get higher yields, because you want to manipulate time. A big thing Masanobu Fukuoka did. Bill Mollison talks about it, how just everyone overlooks it, what Masanobu did. Yeah, he does natural farming, but the manipulation of time is how he did it. He actually made it so just by sowing seeds at the right timing, he didn't have to do any work besides just cutting his grain down. So he's someone to learn a lot of things from, Masanobu and Bill. They're people I talk about more than any other, because they're the best. And here we've got just cucumbers growing with green beans. One thing about the green beans, like the black Cherokee I have in the back, is they're just so productive, you can't even keep up with them. So I don't plant that many of them anymore, because they'll take over the gardens. I can't keep up with it, like I said. Paul Gauci will talk about that in his garden. When you got the right system in like this, a lot of your work, when you have all the groundwork in, is gonna be like keeping up with things. Trying to keep up with the harvest of the cucumbers so they don't stop flowering. Trying to keep up pruning the trees. Trying to thin your pear trees so they don't produce too much. The work goes from like planting to maintaining, and that's when you know you're in the right spot. And that daily maintenance is what becomes a lot of your investments. But just because you have the system in place doesn't mean you shouldn't keep bringing wood chips in. You always have to do that. Bringing new plants in, bringing in a diversity of things, because diversity is what's gonna help you to breed balance, which is so important. That's gonna make it easier on you. If you guys are enjoying this video and you're finding value in it, I ask that you take the time, just hit that like button. I know it's not hard for you, but it really helps the channel. Hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, because providing this information and this support and the inspiration for you is why we do this. This is where we get a lot of value. You'll notice in my videos that I use a lot of quotes. And the reason I use a lot of quotes is because, in my opinion, quotes show that you've done your homework. Sometimes people say things so well, or someone said it so well, that there's not really a point of trying to rephrase it. So that's why I try to provide you with quotes from people who are doing it, who have done it. People like Bill Mollison, people like Masanobu Fukuoka, people like Jeff Lawton. Because just reading a book and telling someone how to do it isn't the right way, in my opinion. You got to get out there, you got to do it, and you got to share your experiences, because good experiences can become commodity if we use them correctly. One thing you guys will notice as I go through here is there's not anywhere where the ground is exposed. That's so important. Either we've got plants growing as a living mulch, or we've got wood chips. And that's what you want to do. That's how you keep the weeds down. That's how you build fertility continually. As you can see, this raspberry section is just going to be ridiculous. The amount of fall raspberries is literally going to be out of control. We're going to come out here, we're going to enjoy them. I guess we're going to have to do some canning, maybe make some jams or some jellies, because I know we're not going to be able to eat them all fresh. Some of the apples are still doing well, holding on. This is a pretty good sized one, even though it's got a bite on the side. The idea of getting apples with no sprays and no pesticides and just as naturally as you can, it's so appealing to us, even if we don't get huge harvests. Here's the peach I was talking about, the one that's come up on its own underneath the peach tree. One thing to note, guys, is your peach trees, they're only going to be productive for about 12 years once they get into production. So you always want to be thinking about the future, planning ahead, and get the next round of them going. I've showed you a number of these, the dragon tongue beans, which are just doing excellent here. One I love growing, it's a bush bean. And then you can see I think it's the Cherokee purple, I think it's called. These string beans that are just out of control because they take over the whole sections back here. It just wants to shade out a lot of this pear tree and grow up it. I think I'm going to be taking this pear tree out in the future. We've done everything we could for it, but the pears, they're okay, but they don't taste good enough, to be honest with you. I don't want this pear tree when I could have a white Doyen like I got in the front, which is just a cool variety and it's performing well. I've talked about it many times. The pears just do excellent here. And we still do have some peaches on the trees that we're just coming out and harvesting them. See some ones there. As we go through this like little section, it's just like I feel like Willy Wonka a lot of times in here. You know, grabbing a blueberry and then, you know, you want to grab some mint or a pear or grapes, or it's just a fun place to be. But it's pretty obvious I've got some pruning to do. And I just let things get a little overgrown. I love growing things a little too much. You know, it's something that's a good thing that can also become a curse. Too much of anything isn't a good thing, right? So more peaches up there and more peaches up here too. We're having a great time growing naturally. And today is a beautiful day for the pollinators, the bees, but let me take you into the new food forest. I'm going on a little too long. I've talked about it before, but these videos could be long. I can make hour videos just because I've got a lot to show and I've got a lot to talk about, because this is my passion, guys. I love doing this stuff, and to provide it, to be able to share it with you and to get the connection with you guys, to hear back, to see the pictures of your gardens, to hear your words, to you know, it feels amazing. And I'm going to continue to do this and create videos, connect with you all. I hope that as a group we can just turn our backyards into oases. Look at this new food forest. This was just a couple of months, guys. We're talking little to no money spent on getting the system started. The only money was spent on the plants, getting the fruit trees in, which is something I'm not going to have to buy more of in the future. But we didn't go out and buy expensive bags of soil. We didn't use fertilizers. What we did was we worked with nature, which is something we all need to do a little more. I say it a lot, but you've got a choice here, guys. You can work with nature or you can work against it. And I'm gonna let you know that the more you work against nature, the more work in general you're gonna have to do. So let me take you inside and give you a little closer perspective of things. As you can see, it's not the greatest looking pear we got from back there. We'll take a bite of it though. Soft and ripe, but again, not the best looking and not the best flavor either. I've got another pear tree in the back here, an older one too, but it's doing much better and it's even better looking. One thing I want to talk about though is just take a look at the whole backyard here. Look at what's going on. Look at all the green growth. Look at all the photosynthesis. All this growth means photosynthesis, and all these plants that are photosynthesizing, they're all edible. They're all productive. They're all in here for a reason. I don't grow many weeds. Why grow weeds when we can grow food? I try to stay on top of that stuff. So let me grab the camera and show you some of the stuff a little closer, get you a feel of the production you can get with little work. And here's that other pear tree I was talking about. This is in the back of the 1-year-old food forest. I didn't plant this, it was something that was already here. Let me take you through though and show you, again, in just months. This was grass a couple months ago, you guys saw it. And we put the system in to work towards it. We've got some new zucchini planted as well. The next round is zucchini. We've got that growing. The strawberries, it's gonna be a beautiful, thick, just nice matted row of strawberries next year. We're so excited about that. And the tomatoes are just growing excellently. A lot of peppers. There's a young plant here, and just more peppers here. I should take you guys in closer to show you something. This is gonna be our best pepper harvest ever. And I've talked a little bit about how the tomatoes just haven't had a great year. But I said earlier, get that diversity, that'll breed you some balance. So we have a balanced harvest because we've got a number of other things planted. The next round of beans planted in here. And what I'll do is now that they're up, I'll just come through and I'll bring the wood chips around the base. Young wood chips, small wood chips actually, not the big ones, because we don't want to be poking it and breaking stems. Tomatoes came up from seed. There's a peach tree that we put in this year, excellent looking growth. Head of security is always working, gotta have them in here. That's a pepper that's just more of an ornamental, because we've got so many growing already. Sometimes beauty is a factor that you can't take for granted. I like coming out to my gardens just to be out here sometimes, not even just to get food. So when you have a system like that, you know, you're gonna be out here more, which is only gonna make your garden better. Because all that effort you put in, it'll all come back to you. So many tomatoes ripe, so many tomatoes ready. Look at the thing as it goes up. That's why we grow up stakes. We get higher production in less space because we use that vertical. So many peppers, monster peppers too. 4 huge peppers on a small plant. The white egg plants are starting to perform nicely. More white egg plants in this section here. You can see these green beans, we've got a lot on them. They're loaded, but they're almost done flowering. So that's why we have the next section going. The next succession of plants. This here, the zucchinis are about done. We're gonna rip that out. We're gonna put some stuff in that can grow quick. Probably get some kale in there, looking towards the fall. Transitioning towards the next thing. Not being stagnant. Guys, if you don't use it, you lose it. So we're always looking to expand. And you know the Japanese cucumbers, these things are crazy. If you want to grow cucumbers, you want a big harvest, you're not growing these Japanese cukes next year, don't come to me asking how to get a big harvest. Variety is a part of it, so that's huge. I'm gonna come out here and cut a lot of these more basils. Let me show you how big and bushy the basils get when you stay on top of pruning them. Before that though, look at this pepper. Retarded how many peppers it has. Huge peppers. So we like to see more big peppers on this one. But here's a basil. Here's what your basil should be looking like. Big bushes like this and getting bigger and bigger. Not tiny little plants that, you know, you get six leaves from and then they flower. When you let anything flower, all the hormones, which are, you know, regularly sent out for growth, are going to be sent out for seed production. Once you let anything fruit, it's going to focus on that seed production. So you want to make sure you're getting the growth if you want to still get the flowers. You can save the seeds later in the season. Here's Tuck's spot that he likes digging and hanging out in. No point in me covering it up because he'll come back out and dig it. Sometimes you got to keep some sections aside for other things besides growing, you know, for hanging out and things like that. This section is just so dense in here with tomatoes and peppers. Some in there almost ready. And there's also the indigo cream that has a number ready. Cucumbers hanging from it. Look how dense that is, but it's getting enough light. So these beneficial connections are what's going to really bring you to higher harvests. Sometimes you don't even have to be the one that designs them. Nature just brings these beneficial connections on their own, which is so much fun. And I've talked about it before, when these connections happen without even you being a part of them, it's encouraging. And when you think you know everything about gardening or something, one thing can happen that can change your whole perspective. And then you realize that you actually know nothing. And there's so many doors that not only haven't been opened, but haven't even been looked at yet. So that's what we try to do. One idea, while we're always reading, we're always trying to learn from everyone. We learn from people's mistakes, from our own mistakes, but we gotta make sure that we're growing every single day. That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. Me and Tuck had a blast bringing you guys out here, showing you the garden, but it's time for me to call you out. If you haven't gone out to your garden today, get out there, get something done. If you haven't started a garden, I'm telling you, it's never too late. You have to get one in. If you don't have the space, do what you can to find it. We said it before, but excuses are just well-planned lies. Me and Tuck don't like any of those. If you enjoyed the video though, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share it with your friends, and check us out on Steam It too, because we love posting on there. A lot of the Moon Glow pears and stuff are getting ready. Look at the size of this guy. We're talking natural as you can get. We'll bring this in and let it get a little softer, and this makes it all worth it right here. Tuck and James Prigioni will be back at you real soon.